All right, welcome back to Prayer of the Barren Womb. We are in part 42 of the Four Rivers of Eden and part 11 of As It Was in the Days of Abraham. Before I get to the next section of As It Was in the Days of Abraham, I want to model the prayer of the barren womb. And this prayer that I'm going to model for you is actually a part of my consistent prayer life. And it is the reason for the name of my channel. So I want to share that with you, and I also want to revisit the idea behind it. The barren womb is such a significant feature in the book of Genesis that it is demonstrated for us no less than 4 times in the 50 chapters of Genesis. The entire nation of promise emerges from the condition of a barren womb. And this is such a prominent feature of the book of Genesis that it's not something that you can neglect. You have to analyze it. You have to interpret it. This is something that the Torah is, the heavens are unzipped. The megaphone has popped through, and the creator, the author of the Bible, is telling us we need to understand the message behind the barren womb. And for me, it's, in a nutshell, it's simply the idea that it's step 1 in every genuine spiritual journey for any individual, male or female. The condition of barrenness must be recognized within ourselves before we can proceed in our walk with God. Yeshua brings this out in the Beatitudes in the book of Matthew. And he begins the Beatitudes. Let me go there. I'm just riffing right now. Come on. The opening beatitude, the opening blessing of Yeshua are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. These opening 2 blessings of Yeshua are a realization of our condition of barrenness, of poverty, of missing the mark. The intention of God in our lives is that we should hit the mark. And coming to the realization that we have failed in that objective, that we have missed the mark, produces in our spirit a poverty, a recognition of our own spiritual poverty. That is step 1 in any true spiritual journey. And mourning over that condition. What we have fallen away from in our modern culture, our convenience culture, is that children are an encumbrance, particularly to women. If you're career-minded, if you have your sights set on becoming whatever, children are a real hindrance to that. They're going to be a real problem and a challenge to women who are in pursuit of, massive career goals, whatever it is. And so we've lost sight of how impoverished Sarah was, the wife of Abraham, how central childbearing was to her identity as a woman. That if she could fail to produce children for her husband, she has failed in her mission as a woman. And what a crushing blow that would have been. So we've lost contact with how desperate women were in that era to bear children for their husband, that the name of their husband, the legacy of their husband could be continued. And so it's just something to be aware of, is that we don't really have an accurate understanding of who Sarah was. And she's just the first of 4 barren women that produce the nation of promise. And through the nation of promise comes Messiah Yeshua, the seed of promise. So the prayer of the barren womb recognizes this condition and cries out from that impoverished condition, cries out to God, Father, let my life produce something of eternal consequence. And so this has come forward and is expressed in my prayer life as follows, and I'm going to share it with you. Perhaps it'll become a part of your prayer life. But it's simply, Holy One, Father, I come before you right now in the name of Yeshua. I come before you with boldness and with confidence to stand in your presence, and I cry out to you, Father. I cry out to you that the living seed of Yeshua would find the good soil of faith in the barren womb of my life, that I could produce the children of promise. I ask this of you in the name of Yeshua. Amen. That the living seed of Yeshua was the Word made flesh. Yeshua declares that his words are spirit, that his words are truth. In Matthew 13, we get further clarification that the Word is the seed. So when you stack all those layers on top of each other, the result of that is that the seed of the gospel would penetrate our hearts and our lives and find the good soil of faith, as is demonstrated in soil type number 4, that we could produce a harvest, and that harvest is more souls for the kingdom. So that's the prayer, that the living vital seed of the gospel could find the good soil of faith. And we all enter this journey on this process. We begin life as soil type number 1. We have no concept of our need. And for who knows how long, how many years, the gospel message just bounces off our hearts like seed bouncing off a sidewalk. No penetration, no cracks in the pavement to find purchase. But at some point in time, we begin to get into contact with something's wrong, something's not right. And maybe cracks begin to appear in our shell. And some of that seed might find a little bit of soil in the stony condition of our heart. But it doesn't bear fruit. It has no root. Something's still not right. And so we progress in this journey to search out the reasons why our life feels so wrong to us. And perhaps we move on to soil type 3, where there's actually more soil now. There's enough room for a root system to develop. And we go deeper into this journey. And we get distracted. We get pulled away from the main thing, because life does that to us. Life is a struggle. And so many times the struggle becomes the aim. Choked out by the deceitfulness of riches. And, all the offerings of this world become a focus for us. And we continue, maybe growing in our understanding of God and our place in his heart. And we continue to find that, hey, there's still barrenness here. There's still no fruit. There's nothing of lasting consequence. So this struggle continues to at some point we become wise. And not all of us get here. I've prayed over myself many times about the Matthew 13, the production of the field, where some produce 30, 60, and 100-fold. I would just like to see my life get to the place where I can produce 30, a 30-fold increase. So these become parts of my prayer life. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you on this channel, but I hope you've stuck around with me long enough to understand that this prayer is the process of going from pavement to fruitful. And it's the Beatitudes that kind of describe that. The Beatitudes layer themselves over these different soil types. And as we hunger and thirst for more of God, he will give it to us. But we have to break up the hardness of our heart. We have to allow a place where the seed of the gospel can actually penetrate our hearts. and it can actually develop a root system where our leaves of this little plant can stretch towards the light and collect energy from the light and stay focused on the light of God's word, and keep the main thing, so that we can produce a harvest. Okay. Anyhow, I don't know how many people, according to analytics, most of you dropped off. So if you're still with me, we're going to head back to Genesis 19 now. Genesis 19 has become so important to me, because in it I see a prophecy of last terminal generation, end times scenario is given for us in Genesis 19. And the more I reflect upon this, the more I see the conditions of Genesis 18 and 19, both. But mostly my focus has been on Genesis 19 and the meaning of Lot and Lot's wife. Because we are told specifically, as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be at the revealing of the Son of Man. And secondly, to remember Lot's wife. So Genesis 19, I believe, at this point, I want to bring this forward really as strongly as I can. Genesis 19 has been hidden. It's one of those opening of the book moments. And if you're not familiar with that phrase, Daniel, the prophet Daniel, his own prophecies were hidden from him. He couldn't unravel the things that God was giving him. Finally, an angel comes to him and says, go your way, Daniel, get a life. You're not going to figure this out. This book has been closed until the last generation. We are in that terminal generation. There are so many conditions that have been met that were never met before that we are seeing. One of the mysteries that I believe has been withheld from understanding, hear me, one of the mysteries that have been withheld from human understanding until this time, until the terminal generation, is the understanding of Genesis 19, verse 8. Okay? I've struggled with this ever since I first started hearing about it, and I've lived my whole life in the church. It's like, Lot, how could you do this? How could you offer your 2 children to the Sodomites? It never made sense to me until within the last month or so. I haven't had an understanding of this mystery until now, and I think this mystery of Genesis 19, verse 8 can only be understood in the context of the time period we are living in. Genesis 19, verse 8 is a prophecy of what will come to pass and is coming to pass right now, before the firestorm of heaven. We are looking upon parents offering their children to the Sodomites, and probably for the most part completely unaware that they are fulfilling an ancient prophecy from Genesis 19, verse 8. This is a mystery. This understanding has been withheld from the people of God, and God does this. He withholds understanding from his people until it's time to understand it. This is part of his pattern. So this is a very troubling understanding that the people of God in the terminal generation are going to fall. The people of God, I should say, are actually going to fall under 3 categories: stony, weeds, and fruitful. Lot's wife, Lot, and Abraham. And the fact that we are seeing the typology of Lot offering up his children to the Sodomites in our society right now shouts to me that the firestorm from heaven is about to arrive. I can't put it strongly enough how challenging this chapter has become to me, and how revelatory. It's like jaw-dropping. And I want to convey that that message as best I can. And I ask, Father God, that the Spirit of truth would cause anything that I'm saying that's wheat or chaff, that it would fall away. But if there's anything of weight or value, Father, that it would sink into the hearts of everybody who's still listening to this video at this point, Father. I ask for the spirit of revelation. I ask, Father, for the grace. I pray Paul's prayer back to you right now, Father, that we would be given revelation, the spirit of wisdom and revelation. These are Paul's prayers that are endorsed and memorialized in your word. And I pray this over myself and over anybody who's listening to this right now, that the spirit of revelation and understanding would come to us. I pray, Father, that we would be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the length, the breadth, the height, and the depth of the love you have for us in Yeshua Messiah. I pray for revelation to come. I pray, Father, right now, for this word to sink into our hearts. Whatever is of your spirit would sink into our hearts, and that we would be shifted and changed as a result of your spirit moving upon your word in the name of Yeshua. Okay. We move forward in Genesis 19 to the heaven-mandated blindness that were on the people of Sodom. By the time we get to these conditions in society, I believe what we're looking upon is a society that falls under the category of heaven-mandated blindness. We see this repeated for us in Romans chapter 1, being given over to a depraved mind. And that happens like 3 times. That's repeated, if I remember correctly, for Romans 1. They're given over to a depraved mind because they did not love truth. They loved darkness. They loved their sexual depravity. And then in 2 Thessalonians again, heaven-mandated blindness, great delusion, being imposed upon the hearts of men and women because they did not love the truth. Heaven-imposed blindness, angelic imposed blindness so that they could not find the door, they could not find the way, they could not find the truth, they could not find the life. There's no possibility for these Sodomites now to find salvation. The door has been closed, just like the door was closed on Noah's Ark. The door was closed on Lot and his family. And the fact that Lot's wife was behind that door, and maybe there was just enough salvation in her heart that she could escape. You know, Lot's wife is still a question mark to me. What is her eternal portion? Was she refined by fire so that she could have some measure, some portion of just existence in the eternal state with no reward at all, with nothing to offer her master? Lot maybe has very little to offer his master. He has hospitality. He has the hospitality narrative. He offered his resources and his kindness to strangers and messengers who came to his door. He has a little bit. He has a little bit to offer his master. Lot's wife has nothing. And perhaps that's what we're seeing here in this progression. The lost, saved. There was a little bit of life in Lot's wife. She received the message of monotheism. She lived under Lot's roof. Lot was a monotheist. She had enough truth to receive with joy. She had zero endurance when the heat came. Her heart was still connected to Sodom, looking over her shoulder. Lot himself was saved, but as if through a wall of fire. And his works will be tested with fire. Lot's wife, she was tested with fire. Lot himself, his works will be tested with fire, and I believe he'll have a little bit to offer his Creator as reward. Abraham, on the other hand, is going to have riches in the eternal state, glory and honor. Abraham, what a man of God we're discovering him to be. So this is my encouragement to anyone listening at this point, that we are on a journey. We are on a progression from a state of total darkness and our objective is to reach a state of wisdom and revelation and light. I believe we're all somewhere on the spectrum. You know, if you're listening to this channel, I think you're at least this far. But the challenge that I have for you and for myself is the challenge of what kind of building material do we want to give God to work with for our eternal condition? Gold, silver, precious stones, or wood, hay, and straw? Seems like that itself is a spectrum of worth. Gold, silver, precious stones. What you can actually build stuff with wood. It'll burn. Hay, you can actually nourish cattle. Straw, that's the chaff. That's worthless. That's going to burn. There's a little bit of value. There's more value, greater value, a lot of value, ultimate value. It seems that there's a spectrum of building material that we can provide to our Father, to Yeshua, the one who's preparing a place for us. So these are challenging questions, people of God. Where are we on the spectrum? And my challenge continues to be that we uproot ourselves from the gates of Sodom and start moving towards the tents of Abraham. That's my challenge to myself. That's my challenge to anyone listening, that we focus our energy upon that journey. Destruction. The angels decree destruction. Lot's lingering, following the certainty of destruction. And we know, if you're even awake, you know something's coming. You can feel this underlying tension in the world right now. We know destruction is coming. But what does Lot do? He lingers. He tinkers. He's like still distracted. He's still hoping maybe the storm will pass. The storm's not going to pass, people. You know, I find myself in this state of lingering, still toying with my favorite distractions. I want the main thing to be the main thing. I ask, Father, that you would move upon my heart and the heart of every person, that we would keep the main thing, that we would stop tinkering with our destruction, with our distractions, and move towards the tents of Abraham. But I love this. The angels took hold of his hand and his wife's hand and the hands of his two daughters, the Lord being merciful to him. And they brought him outside and set him outside the city. That's got to be my favorite verse in the whole chapter right there. The story of Lord being merciful to him. And then Lot's negotiation. Everything is me. What? No, my lords. What about me? Save my life. Let my life be spared. I can't go to the mountains lest something happen to me. Let me go to this city so that my life will be spared. He's consumed with himself, and that's okay. That's a level of growth that we have to move through. And then when the sun had arisen, the Lord rained fire and brimstone down on Sodom and Gomorrah. He overthrew those cities, but his wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. In fact, she's the first mention of this pillar. And we know downstream that pillars are things that are built up as remembrance. Lot's wife is a remembrance to us. I believe this is a picture for us to remember. And that goes to exactly what Yeshua warned us. Remember Lot's wife. There's a pillar, there's a stone of remembrance here. Abraham built stones of remembrance. Jacob built stones of remembrance. So there's a remembrance going on right here. God really wants us to pay close attention to Lot's wife and to Lot himself, because these are prophetic shadow types, prequels of what his people are going to look like. And so I understand this to mean that we don't have to stay in that condition, that we can actually evacuate the city of Sodom, that we can leave before things get burned out by the firestorm from heaven. Okay, I've repeated myself a lot in this video, and it's just so strong in me that this chapter is prophetic through and through, and that we've never seen this before. And I'm sure there are others. There are others who are seeing this. You know, when somebody says, I'm the only one who's seen this, you know, that can't be the case. That can't be the case. Others are seeing this. It's just, this is the first I'm hearing of it. And so I want to share this with the world. I want to share this with whoever is out there, whoever is challenged by this. So I think I'll leave this right here. For those of you who have made it to the end of the video, very weird thing happened with my last one, part 41. It's like, I think it's like around 600 views at the time of this recording. 600. I've been averaging like 50 views on these videos, and all of a sudden, boop, this thing just spiked to like 600. And I don't know why. But what I want to encourage for those who have made it this far and haven't gone to the whole series of As It Was in the Days of Abraham, this is a standalone series. It's part of a whole storyline, and you're looking at about this much of it. So I want to encourage you to go back at least to the starting point of As It Was in the Days of Abraham and move forward through the whole series. So I'm not seeing that show up in the analytics. I saw this one spike, part 41, and you know, there's a little bit that's moving over to the beginning, but I just want to encourage people to go through the whole series, and if it's a blessing to you, let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up. It really helps. It moves this message further out on the algorithm. So thumbs up, subscribe, and hopefully you'll tune into the next presentation that I do, part 43 and part 12 of As It Was in the Days of Abraham. All right, thank you so much for your time.